Hi, ladies and gentlemen. You are watching and listening to a very special edition, because they're all special, of Sipping Off the Cuff on Tequila Aficionado Media. I'm Mike Morales here in Southern California. That gentleman out there is
Jim Johnson in Youngstown, Ohio.
Jim. You look like you just came from a wake.
I did. And if you've ever been to an Irish one, it was a lot of fun, except for the guy that was there. But
Yeah, I don't know. It sounded like he was having fun at the end there, but he just didn't know it.
right. When people are pouring drinks by your casket, that means you've made it at a level that,
when they're celebrating, it's like Weekend at Bernie's. All you need to do now is just zombie up.
Right. Well, and honestly, I think a few of the people that are there are going to be zombies in a couple hours too. Yeah. But sure. if you've gotten to the point where everybody there wants to stay and raise a glass to you, you've done very well.
Yeah, we can only hope to have that kind of a send off.
That's right.
But we're not going to send off this. This is a brand new tequila that actually I've been chasing for a while. And it's Canadian. We've never been able to get it until like right now, because it was started by two Canadian folks, a husband and wife team, I suppose. And it's called Cada, every day. And you see their logo. It's a kind of a bird. This is a hummingbird. So it's got
a hummingbird. Yeah, if you look at it from the top down, it looks like a fighter jet.
That's what I thought it was, and then
until the liquid started to actually settle, and I could tell it's a hummingbird. But
yeah, it's kind of a stylized, kind of a native or Aztec kind of look to it. And yeah, you read the story on the back how if you see a hummingbird, it's a lucky day for you, and he's giving you this message. It's cute. I like it. This bottle is, I think at one time, I think Grando Vejo used to use this bottle. So it's not an uncommon bottle.
Right.
But anyway, we're just gonna pour the juice, then we'll give you all the ins and outs and the stories and see what we can see. I'm gonna use the Stossel Jarrito for tequila, because that's what we do here. And you'll excuse the mess on my desk because I have a little bit of water. This has been sealed on a living room floor for a couple of weeks at least.
Oh,
wow! See, there it is. There it is. That's I'm familiar. That's my sign right there. Okay, I'm gonna pour it. This is I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is this the only expression that they have out right now?
So far, the Repo is the only expression.
Okay.
Or at least the only expression we can get here, because this is a Canadian brand.
Yes.
And I'm not sure if that was an import thing or if it was just because this was the only one they had, but this is the only one we could get. I thought it was because it was the only one they had available.
That's what I thought. But, I don't know. Does the website mention any more?
And I'm going to say, you know what? No, the website only features the Repo.
Okay. We've got all kinds of background information that they were nice enough to send us. But we're going to pour the juice. Wow, look at that. That's a pale straw color, isn't it?
Yeah. Nice and clean.
Yes. And some decent legs and tears on it. Wow. It actually looks darker in the bottle. I think that has to do with the labeling and it's kind of
black background of the label darkens it up a little bit. It gives it almost like a copper color, but when you put it into glass, that is not the case. That is a light blonde.
Yeah. Check that out. Nice legs and tears. I'm impressed. I'm very
body on it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let's see what we get her. Yeah, that's my sign.
See, you know a lot more about this gnome than I do. You know that there's a little bit of a standard here and some consistency, but
yeah. And it generally, I'll let me just give you the gnome number and tell you that it's coming out of La Cofradia, which is it's a major maquiladora, but a lot of stellar brands come out of there. 1137 is the gnome. very popular with a lot of startup brands, and even 818. The original 818 came out of that distillery, and the original juice is not bad. Everything else coming from the new distillery we've not had. I don't know what that's like. I hear it's not good, but I'm only hearing that from, lesser drinkers. But this one, Cofradia, a lot of their tequilas will have a familiar nose to it. And this is one of them.
Kind of powerful nose.
Yeah.
It's not subtle. It's got a lot. It comes right up. There's some baked agave in there.
And honestly, the in the more aged expressions, this stamp, this familiar nose is even more amplified, and really comes across very rich in some of their añejos. Like Señor Rio comes to mind right now. 512 is another brand that comes out of there that is fighting with 818 for some weird reason. But anyway,
getting a little bit of alcohol, but the alcohol and the agave nose it lasts.
Yes.
I'm breathing this in and it doesn't go away quickly. It's the nose almost has a finish on this.
Yeah,
it kind of goes down your throat a little bit. It's got a little bit of a sting on it.
Yeah. I mean, it's very familiar. If you guys have had enough of these tequilas to come out of that distillery, you know what you're looking at, you know what you're sensing. And again, nothing wrong with that. I mean, again, a lot of award-winning brands come out of that distillery, just like Casa Maestra is another one that we've had several tequilas that come out of there. And not everyone is, an award winner. But this was almost got like a sweet after finish too. It finished kind of sweet on the nose.
Mm-hmm.
It smells like, what is this, like a char or something? I've never been able to pinpoint exactly what it is, but I think it's
kind of the barrel char and baked agave it smells like oven. It's got a little oven kind of baked flavor or a nose to it, but like a candied fruit sweetness at the end.
Yeah, and that one I've never.
A little sugar on this actually.
Yeah, I've never noticed that until now on the nose on some of the other brands I mentioned. And I'm wondering if they're even using if they're using the French oak barrels, used French oak barrels, because does it tell us? I'm looking at the information. Does it tell us how long it's being rested? Because I'm not sure that it tells us that.
No. And not much on the website in terms of the actual production.
The distillery has been producing and bottling tequila for over 50 years. Of course, they have. Cada employs a small batch production method. Okay, supposedly 8-year-old Blue Weber agave. I think that's questionable, but anyway, because it's hard to find 8-year-old blue agave right now in this market. It says,
well, maybe it was 8 years old when they started this brand out, because it's been hanging for a while. So who knows when they bought it? But all right.
True.
8. 6, 4.
Yeah. The age of the Blue Weber agave it's an old marketing bullet point that is no longer valid. But they're still using it. It says charred American oak whiskey barrels for 8 months. Okay, so that's what we know what it is. And
8 months.
8 months. These have to be very distressed, very old barrels, I'm sure.
Yeah, because there's not a lot of tint on this to be an 8-month rest in a charred American oak barrel.
That's what I'm saying. It's got to be an old distressed barrel.
Yeah.
Very similar to what G4 does. And
yeah, the char's not new.
Yeah, there's so many brands coming out of that distillery that have come and gone. Some have really, maintained on the market, that it doesn't surprise me that they'd have a few of these older barrels available.
Right. Right.
All right. So shall we dive in?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Mm, 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 mm. Oh my. This is a solid tequila, man.
It really is. And I got to tell you, that is a long finish, but it's a delayed finish. That hangs out in the middle of your palate for so long that's just really it's balanced the whole way through. But it just, I'm used to, you get that finish and it starts at the top here and you get that warmth on the long finish.
Yeah.
It started here and it just took so long to go all the way down. And I still had a little bit in the middle of my palate that was still kind of developing a little bit. That opened up in my mouth, just kind of, it progressed very nicely in the flavor profile there.
Yeah. And
wow.
And the blue agave is there. There's no.
This is, yeah. Well, and I gotta say that we've had a few over the past year and a half where that agave comes through in its adulterated form. It's baked spice. It's agave with some white pepper on it. It's agave with some sweetness on it. This is agave. This is blue agave. And then the sweetness and the pepper and the minerality and the nice long warm finish and the candied fruit on the nose at the finish. You get a nice little sweet kind of citrus finish in your throat.
Yeah, it's that. That's exactly what that was. I was impressed at the fact that that the Blanco, obviously the Blanco they start with, the characteristics were there. So they're only using, this is in a traditional Reposado, when you're an agave grower, you want your agave to shine. And if you're going to have a Reposado, you want it to just round out the edges and still maintain a great blue agave profile. And that's what this does. I'm almost surprised because
wow,
I'm now the idea of the 8-year-old plants.
You don't have 8-year-old plants, 8-month-old barrel. This doesn't have a huge amount of that barrel influence. It takes away from that agave that you get in the Blanco. This is really well done of taking that Blanco and just smoothing it out, just rounding those edges a little bit. The agave is still there, but the barrel has influenced it. And I think that's where a little bit of that white pepper and that spice and that citrus note at the end kind of hits, a little cellulose maybe, but
yeah,
it's just, it's very pleasant. It's very balanced. It's got some power, but it's not overwhelming. So it's, I taste the agave. It's more prominent than some that I've had where it's like, we kind of lost it.
Yeah.
They don't lose it, but also it just gives you a little bit of a reminder that, hey, this came from really good plants.
Yeah, it really has that a depth. There's a depth to this repo that you can attribute to the plant. So when they say 8 years old, I'd say this is pretty. Let's just say maybe 6, 7. They're getting close to 8. So this is something it's a plant that's got more. The longer the plant stays in the ground, the more character it develops before they make it into tequila. And there's nothing adulterated or added to it in any form. There's nothing.
This is a pure, balanced, nice blue agave flavor, a little bit of minerality, a little bit of white pepper, a little bit of sweetness and citrus at the end, a nice long finish. And now I got a little tingle in my cheeks.
Yeah, the lip and gum numbness and the retronasal is really nice.
Man, you could smoke a nice Habano cigar with this.
I would say that, I was doing a tasting with Felipe, our guy in the UK, our TJ in the UK, and afterwards we were talking about smokes, because he's a big cigar smoker too, and he's also a musician, by the way. Anyway, I said that someone was nice enough to send me some Habanos, and he said, which Cohibas did you have? And I forget what the name of it was. And I said to him, I haven't had a Habano in so long that when I smoked this one, I said, they're much milder than I remember. I was really surprised that Cohiba, the last Cohiba I had was one that was gifted to me by, when I was living in Albuquerque. It came from a brother of a friend of the family, whose brother is a stockbroker. And that's where he visited his brother, and he brought me back a stick. And when I smoked it, I thought it had more depth and character. The ones that were sent to me here were really mild. And so I would say that a good Cohiba, like you said, a mild one would really pair well, because the one I had would have been much better paired with a cup of coffee, with a cafe cubano, or espresso. So yeah, I mean, I think you're right. A mild, a Connecticut wrapper of some sort.
I was going to say, honestly, we don't get a lot of repos that have this kind of oomph on the flavor profile that I would ever put with a Connecticut, because I mean, you get some Connecticut's wrappers that it's almost like smoke and air. You're not getting that any depth off of that leaf. But I think because this is such a consistent flavor throughout and balanced, that you're not going to lose the flavor of the cigar against this tequila.
Really? So you would go bolder then?
No, I would actually go mild. I would not be afraid to smoke a Connecticut wrapper with this.
Oh, okay. All right.
I think actually a Maduro would do this a disservice if you got real into it, like an Oscuro wrapper, or something that's a little darker, a lot oilier, a lot more of that like kind of cedar and oil and spice and that kind of thing. It would be a little too much, because then it's going to clash directly with that one prominent flavor that goes through this whole thing. I think because it doesn't, you get that, we got a little agave, then we got a little minerality, then some pepper, then some sweet, then some, and you try to put a mild Connecticut wrapper or a Habano against that. This, you get all those, and they develop, but it's balanced throughout to the point where it's not overpowering my palate. I still just think it's such a clean transition from start to finish that you could have something that takes a little bit more of your sensory perception to pick up on the flavor. And if you're a Maduro smoker, if you like a darker cigar, a Connecticut leaf wrapper is not your deal. But you could do that with this and almost have it be like a light, because this is supposed to be an everyday sipping tequila.
Right. That's what
an everyday light wrapper cigar. That's it's not an after dinner drink by any means, but it could be. It could be with the prominence of the agave flavor in it, but you might not want your cigar to be an after dinner cigar.
Yeah. Well, like I said,
I'm not afraid to do that.
This is more of in the traditional meaning of what a reposado is. This is really it's almost old school. It really is, because most repos are not come across like this unless they're coming from a distillery that grow their own. Okay, they grow their own agave, they have their own agave, they make their own lines. That's something different. This one, they have their own, but they also produce Casa Noble. So the majority of what they're growing goes to that main brand. And then, and that's the one, if I'm not mistaken, is still certified organic, if I'm not wrong about that. But this one, this is
that sugar, that candied sweetness.
Yeah, on the nose, right? But
and
I've always said that I thought this was the French oak that was doing this, but they're telling us it's not French oak that they're using.
There's a little bit of a cocoa now on this.
Yeah, it's a cocoa, it's a cacao, kind of a like a baking chocolate,
Right, not a milk chocolate, but there's definitely that cocoa and that little hint of the sugar off that citrus. But still, I've never lost agave. I've never lost it on the nose.
Yeah.
I've never lost it on the taste. And
this is really well done. And
really
yeah, I
is.
know there's a bunch of brands that come out like Cofradia. I get it. You know, how many of these different flavor profiles can you produce? There's always that question. But I gotta tell you, if anybody's learned to tweak their recipe, it's La Cofradia. They invented triple distillation. This is only double distilled, by the way. They invented triple distillation. I've seen them come out with brands that are quadruple distilled and quintuple distilled. Neither one of those are still in existence, if I'm not mistaken. But I've had them from this distillery, and each time they do it, there's a difference in a quadruple distilled, a triple distilled, and a double distilled. And quintuple distilled, that was really an eye opener, because they had a brand called El Grado, if I'm not mistaken, that's what it was called. That at one point, somebody, what's the guy, the actor from Grey's Anatomy, who's, I guess he's dead now, in the show, Dr. McDreamy or something they used to call him.
Yeah, they're all dead in the show now. My wife watches that show. Every year they kill somebody off. I can't believe they still have people left acting on it.
Well, he was a child actor, a young child actor, and then he made his name in that show. He was a part of El Grado, because he races Formula One cars or something like that.
McDreamy.
Yeah, McDreamy, and I forget what his name is. He was involved in that brand at one time, El Grado, and that was a quintuple distilled tequila coming out of this distillery, and it was really good, and it just went belly up. I mean, the guy never did anything with it.
Patrick Dempsey.
That's the guy, Patrick Dempsey. Thank God for Google and IMDb. So anyway, this distillery has figured out how to tweak their initial recipe to come up with all these different varieties, you know, and this one's a solid tequila, man. And even
it really is. And I got to say, it's simple in the best way. It's simple in that it is straightforward agave. The barrel, the time it spends in the barrel, rounds some of the edges that I think would have come off on a Blanco. It imparts just a touch of that baked char that gives it that depth at the back end. And then the finish is nice and long, but it develops well. It's just a nice sipper.
Yeah. Before we sign off, let me see if I have any more background on. Do we have a price point on this at all?
Well, so I've only seen Canadian prices, and I couldn't do the conversion in my head, but I've seen anywhere from like $60 to $85.
Wow.
To $119. But the one I saw that was $119, that was like the delivery fee. So they're bringing a case of liquor to your house, pandemic pricing. But I think this is going to be in that $60, $70, $80 range, depending on what country you buy it in.
Yeah, especially with Canada, because you know they're taxed up the wazoo. So it's like the whole country is one big control state. They said they launched in December of 2019. I remember that, and you know, and then of course 2020 hit, and they survived. It's Sandeep and Riti Gupta are the co-owners and founders, and this is especially important. It says here because we are aiming to increase the representation of minority-owned and female-founded tequila brands in North America. So that's their angle that they're going for. And
if you're buying it in the States, you're going to get it for $56.
Can they get it in the States? Can they, like, does Old Town Tequila have it right now?
There's an online Royal Batch, looks like the online provider for this.
Okay, never heard of those guys.
No,
but that's okay. Let me see what else I've got as far as information on this. I like that they're calling it. They want it. Oh, here it is. There is some. They sent me a 2-page deck. The brand behind the bottle. It's about those moments we gather around for family, friends coming together, good food, you know, awake. Let's see the story behind the brand. If I can read that correctly, driven driven by love and passion, Sandeep and Riti Gupta founded Cada to embody the joy of living life to the fullest and savoring life each and every day. Their journey began as a young married couple, and understanding that that purpose and balance in life mean everything. So they're entrepreneurs, apparently, and this whole thing is born out of a deep respect for tradition and a love of pure, smooth tequila. Well, smooth shouldn't be in that same paragraph because it's actually there's a lot of depth and body to it. For me,
Yeah.
Cada brings the Mexican spirit to you for every moment we're savoring. I think they've done really well with this, with what they and then they give you these suggestions as to, it's the feeling of an impromptu evening that's only just begun, or a new romance on day one. You know, they give you all these serving suggestions. Now they do give us information on production: slow cooked in stone ovens for 40 hours and cooled for 8. They use a screw mill, so it's a shredder. It's a natural, derived from the agave, so it's a house yeast that they're using.
Right.
Open air stainless steel tanks. I've been to this distillery. Yes, everything's open air. Distillation, distilled twice. So the distillery is known for triple distillation, but this one is only twice distilled. And copper, stainless steel with a copper coil, demineralized volcanic water, and second use charred American oak whiskey barrels is what they're using. And
second use, I mean, that's incredible that it spends 8 months in a second use and doesn't pick up more of that characteristic.
Yeah, I don't.
But that probably just speaks to what the Blanco that goes into it has in terms of the agave character, that it doesn't get overwhelmed by that.
Yeah, they're saying it's a small batch. There's only 3,000 bottles made. And if you're familiar with where they make the tequila, it's the Tequila Valley, but that's where the distillery is. I'm not exactly sure that's where they're getting the agave from. It could be, because I know that they also have the organic agave they keep in Nayarit, which is another state over, and those are the ones that they use for Casa Noble. And probably one or two others that are organic out of that distillery. But other than that, you know, I say it's a solid tequila. It's nothing wrong with it. We go on and on here. Brand of Promise nominee in that Reposado category. Very well done, folks. That's our take on Cada. If you folks have had it, if you're watching this in Canada, we have a lot of folks who watch us in Canada, Mexico, of course, and the United States. If you've had this before, leave us a comment. Down at if you're watching us on YouTube, let us know what you're doing with it. Obviously, this would stand up to every cocktail you could think of, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Even a splash of soda and call it a ranch water. I don't know. I make a great Paloma.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's our take. Subscribe. Let us know what you're doing with it. Hit the notification bell. Give us a like. Don't forget to share. And whatever you do, tomar sabiamente.
Sip wisely.